How can we break chains in our lives, even the ones we're not aware of, and experience compassionate hope? That's the topic we're going to be addressing today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager. Flourish-Meant is sponsored by Access More. Today, I am honored to present to you Susan Henson. She is co-founder of Compassionate Hope Ministries, and she is also co-author of the amazing book, Breaking Invisible Chains, which was endorsed by Tebow and Stephen Curtis Chapman, among many others. She has also been a missionary and a speaker and hosts Breaking the Chains conferences for people here in the United States, but she has been very active in ministry throughout the world with helping people break free. And that's what she's going to talk to us about today. Welcome, Susan. I am just so happy that I met you at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention and was able to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Tina. It's a joy to be with you, and just blessings on your ministry that you have with Flourish-Meant.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate that. And I would love for you to share with the audience your journey of finding this as a passion in your life, helping people break free from the chains that are holding them back, sometimes physical chains, but more often than not, you have focused on the emotional and spiritual and traumatic chains that hold people back. Can you talk about why that has become a focal point for you in the mission that God has set you on in life?
Well, really, it started with my own journey and my walk with the Lord. I think that's where it always starts. But God took me in a very dark place at one time with the birth of my youngest son. He was born with multiple birth defects. He was born without an esophagus, missing ribs, missing vertebrae. And it really took me to a place of desperation before the Lord. Psalms 119 says, if thy law had not been my delight, I would have perished in my affliction. And that was where I was. God drove me during that period of time to the Word of God and to really begin to seek to know Him in such an intimate way. My husband has a phrase that when desperation and faith collide, that's when God's character is revealed. That's when His miraculous works revealed, and that in that desperate place, God revealed who He was to me. That He was El Shaddai, the all-sufficient One, who would meet my very need. So I think that always starts with your own personal journey in your walk with the Lord, and then the desire that if God set me free, He can also set others free, and just walking in that with other women to be able to, drive them and help them see that the Word of God is the umbrella to combat the lies of the enemy, and then to be able to really see the character and nature of who God is and what He can do in your life. So that is really kind of the beginning of my first journey in my walk with the Lord.
So you worked with Nancy Lee DeMoss for a time. I'm imagining that was before you went into missionary work across the world to do more intense work with breaking chains for people in places that were incredibly dark.
Yes, Nancy's been a dear friend and mentor of mine since we were way back in our 20s, so it's been a long time. But I never dreamed of being able to be a part of ministry and serve alongside her. But I served for 10 years with Revive Our Hearts Ministry. I was a True Woman workshop speaker. They also they published two of my study guides to go with that. So that it's been a beautiful journey with Revive Our Hearts and with Nancy. And Revive Our Hearts heard about our stories and they became partners with us as well. They actually sent one of their media team over and captured some of our stories. So it's been a sweet partnership with Revive Our Hearts. But Nancy's been her walk with the Lord was one of those things that really stimulated my own desire to say, hey, I want what she has. She has a walk with the Lord that I don't have. And so that really put a burden in my own heart, too. So, yeah, Nancy's been a dear friend and mentor. And then God used that to, more towards the end of that ministry is when we started full time in with Compassionate Hope and serving overseas, more and more with the persecuted believers and with our homes of hope.
So I'm hearing you say that this started for you with being discipled by
Yeah.
someone who was mature in the faith, and that taught you how to be a discipler when you went into missions and helped other people see their own opportunities for breaking free from invisible chains or sometimes even physical chains in some of the cases where you were delivering people and rescuing them from bondage and human trafficking. But here's where I would like the audience to understand your story just a little bit better. Can you talk about those beginning steps of breaking free and becoming discipled? Did you know that God was going to call you to this big ministry, or did you have to walk it out one step at a time? For that person listening who's thinking, well, this doesn't apply to me, I'm never going to have a big worldwide rescuing mission. Can you talk about that a little bit to that person listening who may be thinking that?
Absolutely. We had no idea the direction God was going to take us because for 35 years we were, serving as lead ministry and pastor of a church in Nashville, Tennessee. We were going back and forth, just part time a couple of times a year over to serve the persecuted believers in an undisclosed country. So we were very content where we were, but then it was really when we were walking in the darkness of this persecuted church. We're talking about where there is people that have been martyred, people that are being put in prison for their faith, and then we were talking, about the spiritism, animistics, all these types of things. We were walking in this darkness, but then all of a sudden we saw the darkness of the depravity of man and the culture and how it was affecting children. And then all of a sudden it was like, we have got to do something. And so here we were at a stage in life where we should have been thinking about retiring. And God said, no, I need you to refire. And so we stepped aside from ministry where we thought we would die, being in the church and ministry that we had founded. And God just said, we just clearly heard his voice behind us saying, this is the way, walk ye in it. And so we stepped aside in 2010 to establish Compassionate Hope Foundation to help rescue children that had been abandoned, abused, trafficked, sold as child brides, and children that just been orphaned and exiled from persecution. And God said, you cannot not see this and not do anything. So we felt like we needed to use the power of our influence and the experience that we had. And God said, this is the direction I want you to take now. And for the latter part of your years, to pour everything that you've learned, everything together. Now, this is the way I want you to walk in order to rescue these children. And so, Tina, we've rescued over 1,000 children since 2010. So I would say to those, be obedient on the step that you're on. And that step will lead you to the next step, and it'll lead you to the next step. And it's not going to be a straight path. It's gonna veer off from time to time. And as God matures you and strengthens you and gives you more clarity, you just need to be open to hear God's voice and to follow Him. I think a lot of people when they're young, they're afraid of the future. But if you know the character and nature of who God is, you don't have to be afraid of the future. Just be obedient on the step and where God has you in order for him to guide you to the next.
One of the chains that we can be bound by that we don't recognize would be that chain of insecurity and fear of being able to walk out some kind of purpose we don't feel equipped for, we don't feel good enough for. So what you're saying is really speaking to that chain first.
Yes, I think fear binds everyone because of the fear of not either fear of rejection or the fear of just misunderstanding who God is. So I think fear is a big one. I think also not just the fear of the future and fear of rejection, but I also think that we don't have enough faith to understand the power of the gospel, not only to set you free, but to guide you forward. You know, the keys to the gospel have been given to us, but it's not for us just to keep for ourselves to set us free. God has given us those keys to help unlock the prison doors for other people. So the gospel is not just for us, it's for others. And we all have a responsibility um, to take that the keys of the gospel, not just to the world, but to the world right where God has you, in order for the beauty of the gospel to see fruitfulness take place in all of our lives.
So you didn't take this on all at once. This was a step-by-step process
Yeah.
that God led you toward delivering 1,000 children. It was one child at a time. It was one step toward being a more obedient to God at a time until he prepared you for that ultimate mission that he was designing you to complete.
Yes. Yes.
Well, this is a wonderfully inspiring story, and I can't wait to get into it more. But for now, can you list the links where people can find out more about Breaking Invisible Chains, Compassionate Hope, your speaking ministry, and the Breaking Chains conferences that you provide?
Yes. It's compassionatehope.org. You can go there and everything will be on our website. It's compassionatehope.org. If you're looking for the book, Breaking Invisible Chains, then just do compassionatehope.org/breaking chains. We also have videos on there of some of the stories of the children that we've rescued. You'll be able to see how you can connect with our team. If they want to find out about, perhaps a Breaking Chains event, just type in info@compassionatehope.org and you can write an email and then they can get that email directly to me. And I would love to be able to come and share the stories of Breaking Chains. And really it's really the stories of God's amazing power of redemption that we want to be able to help people to walk out the true story that is in your story of the power of redemption.
Thank you so much, Susan. And to all of you listening, I know that you were touched by this interview. I hope that you will contact Susan and Compassionate Hope at their website and access those resources and become willing to find out how you can be part of breaking other people's chains, maybe starting with breaking your own. And of course, I also hope that you come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant. Flourish-Meant is part of the Spark Media Network and can be found on the Edify app.